Yeah, go on,
One
Tom.
thing that we touched on was when we were unsure about the kind of sound editing at the beginning, was the lack of score or the perceived tension being constantly built. I wonder what people thought about that. I thought that was probably the only thing that lent it quite well to the film. I quite like the bass that almost the lack of score lent to it, and it kind of it coupled quite well with the landscape shots. Although I thought the landscape shots were quite aggressively cut into scenes at times and didn't really flow. But I thought that the music along with it did work quite well. What did you guys think?
Yeah, I rated it. You can see certain themes. Maybe this was 2 years before he made. Has everyone seen Drive?
Yeah.
Has everyone seen Drive? Because there's a lot of things like that, like motifs, I suppose, director motifs that you could see in this film that you could remember or recall from Drive. Like you've got the silent scenes, the silent protagonist. You've got the eerie, kind of heavy atmosphere. You've got those kind of slow, quiet scenes that occasionally spattered with like short bouts of like really brutal violence. That's in Drive. You've got the beautiful cinematography, and then you've got the selective sound design, which I remembered from Drive. Actually, it's something I really enjoyed in Drive was that if you're in a scene, you don't hear all of the ambient sound. You don't hear the wind necessarily. You don't even hear the water. You just hear very specific noises. Like in this film, for example, when they're on the ship, when they're on the boat, and they're all kind of like dragged down and sleeping, and it's kind of really heavy. There's a scene with the barrel going up and down, like rolling around on the boat, and there's no sound of water, there's no sound of wind, there's no sound of really anything or anyone apart
even when they drop the body in.
Yeah, even when they drop the body in, no sound whatsoever. So I like that he chooses very specific sounds to kind of like focus your attention in on. And I think that's quite unique to him as director. I've seen it in other films. Tarkovsky, Russian filmmaker, does it really beautifully as well. But I think that is what kind of held me in the film. Those scenes were thrilling for me. Just the kind of like visual storytelling and the very neat sound design where you don't hear everything and you only hear music and you only hear kind of like swells of sound design when, you know, the tension is intendedly being built up towards something, towards either an anticlimax or towards an arrow being shot into someone's back or something like that. So I think it succeeded on that level. I thought editing, sound design, top notch. Just the dialogue.
It reminded me of Revenant a bit.
Yeah, Revenant. Man, I was thinking 300. It was a cross between 300, Revenant, and what was the last one?
It felt like it was trying to achieve something similar to what I think they did beautifully in the Revenant. But I think that this film missed it.
We miss it on most occasions.
Yeah, I think the production. I think it was that kind of same. They wanted a lot of focus on landscapes, etc. Like sort of a lot of empty kind of scenes, a lot of cut scenes to nature. A lot of the similar angles as well that the camera had, a sort of slow spiral looking up at the sky and the tree line, was very reminiscent of that film, I thought.
Thing is, Revenant gives you time as well to appreciate all of that. Like you say, it's only an hour and a half long, this one, and the fact that it's divided up into sort of acts or chapters cuts out a lot of that possible scenic filler, or it allows you to, a film like The Revenant has that style of filming that it allows you to appreciate all of the smaller, more minute details, but actually having a film divided into chapters and acts sort of chops up a lot of the travelling and a lot of the, as in rather in your storytelling saying, right, we're going to move from here to here and we're going to get there by a transition scene basically or something like that. You skip all of that out, so it possibly does feel a bit more rushed or jagged, and that it sometimes can work to the detriment of the film, I imagine, probably like this time.
But also in the Revenant, you've also got like a really, really compelling, substantial kind of storyline. So like whenever you do have scenes where you spend like 7 or 8 minutes just literally just like hovering the camera above beautiful landscapes, you have something you're thinking about or reflecting on that was put forward in the previous scene, let's say.
be interested to see what you guys think about how would you rate the first half compared to the second half? Because I feel quite strongly that I really liked certainly the first half hour, and thought it was shaping up to be significantly more than actually it delivered on in the second half. It just seemed the plot just seemed to fall away a bit. I can understand the emphasis was more on being very introspective, and that was where it was really trying to draw a lot of the deeper messages of the film in that second half as they just sort of descend into hell. But I thought that was where it missed the mark the most was this second half, whereas they were just bumbling around the forest without really doing much at all.
Did anyone care about whether or not, Mads Mikkelsen's character was from like hell or heaven, by the end? Because I feel like they were drawing our attention to that. Possibly he was just like some, guy from hell that was drawing everybody to their damnation, or he was somebody that was helping. And I just didn't, if that was the main idea, or I suppose the mysterious kind of like pondering that was being put forward, I didn't care enough about it, by the end of the film, which I think is possibly a failure.
I think it possibly is. That's why, like you say, Jem, is that at the start, within the first 20 minutes or so, you sort of root for him. You just do because of his situation at the time. But the fact that we don't actually learn much more about him at all as a character,
I would have loved half an hour before, half an hour of the film before it started
with him,
and half an hour less at the end. Yeah.
Yeah, it's you have any empathy for him at all. Or he's not a character that you're rooting for by the end at all. I think you feel quite detracted from him and whatever he goes about doing. Whereas in the first act of the film, he's clearly the victim at that point.
I think the first half is weird because they line it up as a kind of character-based film, don't they? That it's going to be all about One Eye, potentially his mysterious past, where he's come from, etc., and build the plot around that. And then they go off on a tangent as soon as he meets that group, and it becomes about a religious crusade. And I think at that point, yeah, Jem, I completely agree with you. I thought the first 30 minutes was quite interesting. I was quite intrigued. I liked the way it was shot. I think in that section it was all, as a keep coming back to style, it was all shot in one style. I was like, if they continue with that and sort of develop more around One Eye, I thought it could have been a much better film. But yeah, like you said, Guy, by the time you get to the end, even at the crescendo where they all start killing each other and stabbing each other in the back, you don't really care about any of the characters, so it doesn't really have the melodrama that I think is intended at that point. And I don't know if we've said the length of the film, but there's short films where you get enthralled in the characters. I mean, even the Argentinian film Wild Tales, even though they were short stories, you were kind of engrossed in each character's 20-minute tale. Whereas this, I don't think you got that with any of them.
It's because I said 10 times the amount. Yeah.
So that's the flaw of the writing? Do you reckon, Tom?
Yeah. The flaw of the writing. I just thought it was a kind of, I think with a theme like that. And a film that is actually spread over a large geography and potentially a longer period of time, with questions around religion and morality and heaven and hell. I think you need a longer film to explore it than this. I think they attempted too much with that narrative in too short space of time. So James, your head, what do you think?
James, you just quite like
I was just about to bring up Kingdom of Heaven. Yeah. It's all about the Crusades. Very, very similar start of the film. There's someone that's oppressed, and he finally finds a way out, and they're going to go to a different land, and everything's going to change for them. And then it just descended into a very, very different film, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's incredibly unique. I think say what you want about this film. It's very, very unique. In a way similar to Drive, and maybe it's a uniqueness about the director rather than the film itself.
Well, what I will say as well is it does well not to fall into stereotypes. As we say, we thought, it could be very much like Vikings. It wasn't. It didn't hang on those Norse themes.
Look, Guy, you say that, but that is why no one likes it. I think the thing is with this film, the reason it struggled, and like absolutely like horrendous flop at the box office. Horrendous flop. I think it made $250,000. I mean, it's a low budget film. I think it cost them like $6 million something to make, but they made $250,000. But that's because it doesn't satisfy any of the audience. It doesn't fulfill on people who are going in there expecting something like Vikings or Braveheart or Kingdom of Heaven. Any of those, it doesn't satisfy on that level because there's not a rich enough story and there's not enough dialogue or time invested into it for it to fulfill on that front. But also, it doesn't deliver quite on that almost more metaphysical kind of way where you're looking to explore perhaps more of a morality piece. It doesn't deliver quite on that level for that audience either. And so you're kind of left with a film which you enter in with certain expectations that are established either before you've gone in there or within the first half an hour, and you're kind of gone, oh, I'm now a little bit disappointed. But I do have to. I think I do disagree that with certain points of it, like that you guys have made. I definitely do think that it still had a real beauty to it, and I don't think because it was short that it wasn't as beautiful as something such as The Revenant. I did find myself in times just going, wow, this is incredible, like this shot is stunning, like I really want to go to Scotland right now. I found myself thinking that quite regularly.
It makes you want to be a location scout, doesn't it? It's one of those films that makes you want to be a location scout.
I absolutely love how they made obviously Scotland look like Scotland straight away in the first few seasons, but they made Scotland look like North America with pines and
some beautiful shots in there. Yeah, really nice.
They did a great job of that, and I think also say what you will about One Eye, and maybe you didn't have enough of an investment within him because you didn't know that enough about him. But he certainly had an aura or a presence on the screen, and I fully felt that when anytime he was on the screen, anytime his looks, his gazes, the acting was great. But they did do a good job of setting him up as this incredible, almost like superhuman fighter in the first half an hour, so that there was some presence surrounding him on the screen for the rest of the film, so that. Although maybe, I don't care if he died so much, but I was fully captivated in everything that he was doing. And to achieve that with zero dialogue, I think, incredible feat. I do think that was probably one of the best successes of the film.